All right, we are live. Good morning and welcome to Big Facts. We have a lot of sports to cover today. Obviously, it's Sunday, so we have week 5 of NFL football. We also have, surprisingly, a game 6 of the NBA Finals, and we'll discuss a little bit of what happened in game 5. But, Justin, since it's NFL Sunday, a couple things. The Eagles are playing Pittsburgh today in what I think is a pretty bad matchup for the Eagles, given their O-line situation. And then we have some picks. First of all, how are we doing this morning, Justin?
I'm good, brother. I just had me and the old lady had our first night without children in about 2.5 or 3 years. So that was a good time to not have to get woken up by screaming kids this morning. It was good.
Yeah, it's a good thing you can't make your sixth one right now because the lady is.
I have 3 plus 1, thank you. Sixth one.
You gotta wait another couple of years for that one. So let's get right into it, Just. We got some NFL football. We'll go with these spreads in just a second. But let's discuss a little bit of that Thursday night game and what happened with Tom Brady. And then let's go ahead and discuss the matchup we have against Pittsburgh today. We both picked the Buccaneers to cover. I think the spread was 7. And, I knew if the Bears won, I was going to have to hear all the Nick Foles chatter like he did something to win the game. That being said, the Bears did win the game, and Brady had a little J.R. Smith moment. What'd you see in that Bucs-Bears game?
I don't understand how the greatest quarterback of all time loses track of downs, bro. I mean, I find this, again, I said this in the Super Bowl season. I'm not going to take away from what Nick Foles accomplished, putting up the amount of points that he did. Trey Burton throwing him a touchdown pass was pretty big, but, we obviously it's Nick Foles, so we can't talk about truth and reality. Since he's so much better than Carson Wentz. Again, dude, it's another game that Nick Foles did not deserve to win. I mean, he kept his team in the game, but I'm sorry, bro. If you look at this Buccaneers team, they've got to be the most disappointing team, maybe next to the Cowboys this season. Like, how does this happen? I don't get the level of weapons that they built Tom Brady down there. Not that, again, Tom Brady going there wasn't known, but the level of weapons you've got in a team, you can't put up more than 19 points against the Bears. But I don't want to hear how great Nick Foles is. I don't care. I don't care what your opinion is. I don't care if you think that he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time or underrated. I don't care. He snuck past Tom Brady because his kicker could make a field goal. That's the only thing that happened. I'm disappointed, bro. I'm disappointed. Give me better, Tom. Give me better. I deserve to see you be better. And if you can't be at 42 years old, maybe it's time to hang him up, bro. Can't keep track of downs. Come on.
It's it's an interesting matchup because we can't just push aside the Bears like they don't have a good team because they have a good defense. Khalil Mack was in the backfield all game, and when you have a guy like a Khalil Mack, which we're going to see a little bit with, we were discussing the line, for instance, today with the Colts and the Browns. The Browns are on a hot streak, and the Colts are only giving half a point. The biggest reason I think for that spread is because you have a guy that's a game wrecker like Myles Garrett, going against the good Colts offensive line, but you have a guy in the backfield that can't throw the football. And the way that NFL offenses have kind of adapted throughout the years, you got to have a guy that can get out of the pocket, and Tom Brady can't do that. He's good at dictating the pocket, but he can't get out of it. So the Bears defense is good. They kept him in the game. With the Nick Foles situation, what I'm hearing now is, okay, maybe he's not a great quarterback, and they're starting to come off of him being better than Carson Wentz, but he makes big plays in clutch moments when it matters. There is one touchdown, basically, that Nick Foles was responsible for this last game, and it's when
3 misses that he could have had that he let go.
He had a couple of plays that should have been – a couple balls that should have been intercepted. He probably should have thrown 2 or 3, ended up throwing 1. But when he actually scored a touchdown, the Bucs turned the ball over about the 25, 30 years old, and it took him 4 plays to get in the end zone. And then I think Jimmy Graham made a one-handed catch in the end zone to give them that touchdown. So, we talk about clutch. He had to go 20 yards to get them in field goal range to win that game. I wouldn't necessarily call that clutch. I'd call that 2 first downs and just don't have a 3 and out. I have 4 downs. I know I have 4 downs because I'm going to win the game that I have to get a first down. He did it twice. They got in field goal range. Taker hit a 47 or 43 yarder, and Tom Brady lost track of downs. I did think that, even at the point where they were trying to win that game and take time off the clock, for whatever reason, they threw a pass and they left Tom Brady a minute and a half when they could have ran the clock down to 30 seconds. Nick Foles just kind of lollipopped the ball up and gave Brady a chance. And, obviously you don't expect him. There's some teams and some quarterbacks that just can't beat some teams and some quarterbacks. And maybe Nick Foles has this. There's something going on in Brady's head. Like he's just like has to beat this guy because he lost to him in the Super Bowl. Kind of the same thing he had with Eli Manning, right?
Sure.
But I'm not going to sit here and compare Eli Manning to Nick Foles. One's, going to be in the Hall of Fame and one's a backup QB for his career. We'll see how he does the rest of the time. Everybody thinks I hate Nick Foles. I'm just tired of the comparisons with someone who can be and probably is a franchise QB, which this year I have to see more for, and then someone I know that is career backup. So that's all I really have to say about that. If you watch the game, you can tell, the Bears look just about the same with Nick Foles as they do with Mitch Trubisky.
If you want to make a comparison and you say a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, okay, let's make that comparison all day long because that's who he is. He's a good sixth man. That's what he is. He's not a guy that leads your team to where, let's be real. I ask everybody this question that gives me the Nick Foles, Carson Wentz bullshit. If Nick Foles starts that season in 2017, do you have 13 wins against the Rams? No, you don't. You don't have the same consistency of play. It's not because I hate Nick Foles. I'm with you. I get told the same thing. Oh, you just hate Nick Foles because he won and Carson didn't. No, I just hate the fact that because he got lucky and basically everything that could fell in line for him in one season, I'm not going to let you tell me that he's a great now. I'm not going to do that. Just because he won something doesn't mean he's great. That's it. It's that simple. That defense won that game. If we go back to that Super Bowl season, Tom Brady loses track of downs on Thursday. That's why Nick Foles comes out victor. In the Super Bowl 3 years ago, Tom Brady only lost that game because Brandon Graham finally got through. That's it. If Tom Brady has time in that pocket with 90 seconds left on the clock, the Eagles probably lose the Super Bowl. And it's, again, the difference between greatness and goodness. And Nick Foles is a good quarterback. But stop telling me he's great, dude. I don't hate him because I talk about him in reality. I just want to stay fair and real here. And you're not going to tell me that he's great. I just won't listen to it anymore.
Yeah, and you can't take away from how well he played on the offensive side of the football in the Super Bowl. He was amazing. I mean, he was a Super Bowl MVP for a reason. But none of those defenses could stop either one of those quarterbacks all game. So, correct. You have to imagine that, if Brandon Graham doesn't get that strip sack and it doesn't fall into the hands of Derek Barnett, you can't tell me that he probably doesn't go down the field and score that football. And not to mention, when they had that ball, I know they were trying to run the clock down and go up by 8, but they weren't trusting Nick Foles to go ahead and throw a couple passes and try to punch it into the end zone to put the game out of reach either. They were trying to get in field goal range, go up by 8, and give Brady a really long field at the end of the game to try to score a touchdown and possibly a 2-point conversion. Or
exactly.
I'm sorry, a 2-point conversion. So he's not a guy that you're going to trust at the end of a Super Bowl to, punch it in the end zone. And the way Carson was playing that game, I think him or Nick Foles could have led that offense to probably the same amount of points. Nick Foles played out of his mind, and we got a Super Bowl, and I'm thankful for it. Going into he's proven to me all but 2 or 3 games in his career that he's not great.
Right.
So going into NFL Week 5, Week 5 for me, Just, is kind of the point where you get a little bit of a feel for the teams. It's a little bit harder this year because there's players that have been out with COVID. There's games that have been postponed. There's no real home field advantage. There's a lot of different factors you have in Week 5 that you don't have other years. That being said, I think we've done a pretty decent job picking these games. We have some games with the spread, and then we'll go ahead and get into the Eagles matchup with Pittsburgh. But let's go ahead and run down on this NFL Week 5.
And we did write all of our own down. All of our own.
Yeah,
We did not talk about this before the show.
I can't really see yours in your tiny handwriting, but this is what I have.
You couldn't see it anyway. It's okay.
My sloppy handwriting. So let's start just with the Panthers +3 against the Atlanta Falcons. I know for some reason I think you keep picking the Falcons every week for something.
Because it's going to happen eventually. It's going to happen eventually.
So the Panthers
this is the Falcons.
You're picking the Falcons.
Correct.
I haven't seen anything from the Falcons that would tell me that they're going to beat anybody. The Panthers seem like a very well-coached team to me. Teddy Bridgewater kind of turned it on last week for the first time. I'm going with the Panthers +3. And I think that the Falcons are just a mess. I couldn't pick them if I wanted to.
One of these weeks is going to be what beats you, but that's it. One of these weeks.
One of these going to win that game. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe they don't win for the rest of the year. Redskins getting 7 points against the Rams.
Washington football team. Jesus Christ! One day you're going to say it right before I have to correct you.
I even wrote Redskins on the page. I can't do
Washington is +7, correct?
Yeah.
Washington +7.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. So just keep in mind that it'd be easy with the way the Rams kind of play offensively to pick them to cover that. But all the Rams wins this year are against the NFC East. We're in the NFC East. We know how sorry the division is. And the Redskins, and I think they've wanted to do this all year. Ron Rivera gave Dwayne Haskins a chance. Kyle Allen's going to be taking the snaps today. He had all of last year to really get used to a Ron Rivera offense. And I think that it gives a little bit of spark when a new quarterback comes in. The guys on the Redskins on offense and defense both know that Kyle Allen gives them a better shot than Dwayne Haskins does to win a football game. But when you spend a draft pick, I think he was 15th or 14th overall on a Dwayne Haskins, you have to give him an opportunity. They gave him that opportunity. It hasn't worked out. Kyle Allen's going to play. I like the Redskins +7 as well. Arizona going in. I think they're going into New York to play the Jets. The Arizona Cardinals are giving 7 points to the Jets.
Cardinals -7.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Kyler Murray hasn't played exactly the way I thought he was going to coming into the season. I know we were both really high on him. I think he gets on track today against an awful Jets team, and Sam Darnold is out. So I think that's should be an easy game for Arizona. If it's not an easy game for Arizona, I'm going to be a little bit worried about them. That's my lock of the week, by the way. The Jets with Joe Flacco giving 7 points to the Cardinals. Dolphins +8.5 playing the Niners.
Dolphins cover.
Yeah, I feel the same way. The Dolphins have an opportunity to outright win this game, but I am definitely going to take them getting 8.5 points. Chiefs Raiders. Chiefs -11.
So here comes my lock of the week. Hold on, where the hell are they on my list? Because you're going way different order than me. Chiefs -11. That's my lock of the week.
Okay, yeah, I think division games tend to be a little bit closer, but the Raiders, the Raiders have lost to some good teams. They lost to the Patriots and the Bills. But I still think the Chiefs are I think they're top 10 in defense. And, anytime you have Patrick Mahomes playing Derek Carr, I'm going to lay the 11 points. It might be closer than I expect, but I'm confident enough going with the Chiefs. Bengals +11 going up against Baltimore.
Why don't you start this one?
I like the Bengals +11. The Bengals have not gotten blown out by any teams. All of their games have been within like 3 to 5 points. I think Joe Burrow's a phenomenal quarterback, and I don't believe that I don't have any reason to see that it's not going to be another close game for the Bengals. I love the way Joe Burrow plays, and 11 points is a lot to give a quarterback that's that good.
I needed you to say something good about Joe Burrow in Cincinnati for the first time instead of me starting there. So yeah, I'm with you. Bengals plus 11.
All right, Jags plus 6. I don't know why the Jags are getting 6. I think we both feel like these are two pretty evenly matched teams. It's the Jags and the shit show Houston Texans. Bill O'Brien's been fired. I think Romeo Crennel is the head coach now. I'm taking the Jags plus 6.
Go Gardner.
Gardner Minshew comes out on top. Giants plus 7.5 playing the Cowboys.
Oh man, I hate this game.
In the shit show NFC East.
I hate this game.
I wouldn't.
For so many reasons. Every ounce of my body says that the Giants get killed, but this is my risk of the week. I'm taking the Giants plus 7.5.
I'm taking the Giants plus 7.5. Not because I hate the Dallas Cowboys so much. The Giants came within 8 points of the Rams last week, who I think are significantly better than any NFC East team right now. It's a hard game to pick, but getting the news that Tyron Smith is now out for the year for Dallas, Dak's blind side is exposed. I mean, if it could get any worse for the Cowboys, Dak's blind side protection's gone. I think it's actually going to be a low-scoring game. And with low-scoring games, I like the teams getting points. I think Dallas has to realize they have to run the football, and I'm taking the 7.5 points that the Giants are being given. Colts, Browns pretty much in a pick-em. I can kind of see why odds makers would like that line, but I think the Colts are obviously a better team. Your thoughts?
Colts minus 0.5 point all day long. Much better team.
That's the number one defense in the league. The only reason you would think about picking the Browns is if you thought, the Colts had O-line problems and Myles Garrett was on the other side going against Phillip Rivers. I in a pick'em game with a better coach and a more put together team, the Browns haven't proven anything to me over the years that would make me want to pick them over the number one defense in the league.
With you.
Seahawks minus 7 over the Vikings.
Seahawks minus 7.
Yeah, I think that's we're both on that train. Not much to say there. The Vikings haven't shown me much this year, and Russell Wilson's the MVP.
I did pick them last week, and they helped me, but I can't do it again.
Yeah, Saints minus 8 against the Chargers.
Justin Herbert is interesting. I really want to see what he becomes. I just think it's too soon to assume that going against the Saints and Drew Brees is not too big of a moment for a kid playing his third game. He's not Joe Burrow. He's just not that same guy. There's a reason why Joe Burrow was the first overall pick and Herbert got picked where he did. I would love to say that I think the Chargers could make this up, and there is a strong chance. But if I'm going by reason and if I'm going by logic and rule, I got to take the Saints minus 8.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Chargers are a pretty well-coached team. I think when you put a big-arm quarterback in there, it opens up the run for them. They're able to use all their weapons. Keenan Allen's, coming out again. But I think, playing Drew Brees and a team that's been there, done that before is going to be hard to overcome that 8 points. So I like them by 10. Titans and Bills.
This is easy for me, bro. Go ahead. Give your spiel, and I'll tell you why you're wrong.
All right. So I think I like Vrabel as a coach. I like the Titans as a team. This is a team that's been there before. Josh Allen's having an unbelievable year. He's one of the top 2 in MVP voting right now, but I think he comes back down to earth. I'm picking the Titans in an upset over the Bills. The Bills have played some close games against teams I don't think they should be that close against. And I think the Titans are going to come in there. They're going to run the football. They're going to end up beating the Bills. I like them by 3.
So let's talk about the Bills. I know you mentioned the Colts are the number 1 defense in the league. I imagine the Bills are second or third. I love
the Bills are not even close.
Listen. I love Derrick Henry. I really do. The Bills are a better team. This isn't even close. The Bills have a much better.
When you look at
easy killer. I'll let you go. I'll let you go. Now let me go. The Bills have a much better quarterback. The Bills have a much better starting wide receiver. The Bills have a much better offensive line. The Bills have a much better defense. This is a Bills win by 7.
Well, first of all, I don't agree with you that they have a much better offensive line. I also don't agree with you about the defenses. I have defensive numbers in front of me, and overall, the Titans' defense is actually better than the Bills' defense. The Bills' defense, surprisingly, are actually towards the bottom of the league, the bottom 10 as far as their defensive rankings. It seems like they should have a good defense. They did last year, but this year, not so much. I like the upset. I can see why you would go with Josh Allen and the Bills and Stephon Diggs.
Tennessee's at home. How are you calling this an upset? This is not an upset. Tennessee's at home.
Everyone's picking the Bills. You know, everyone's all over the Bills this game.
Because they're a better team. They're a better team with a better quarterback.
Well, I'm picking the Titans because I think they're the better team, and I think Tannehill is a good quarterback.
Before we get to let me make sure I understand this correctly. Before we get to this Eagles game, the only games we disagree on, for some reason you think that Derrick Henry is going to look like Barry Sanders, but okay, so you have Tennessee over the Bills, and you have
the rushing title last year, didn't he?
And you have shut the fuck up. And you have the Panthers over the Falcons.
Am I wrong?
So
I have the Panthers over the Falcons and the Titans over the Bills. Yeah.
Right now, we only disagree on 2 games. So, God, I hope we disagree on this Eagles game. And I think we might, because I think I might surprise you.
All right. So, let's get into this Eagles game. I think Pittsburgh wins this game, but Pittsburgh has played some close games. They've played some bad teams. They haven't routed any of those teams. They've beaten the Broncos, the Texans, and the Giants. They beat the Giants by 10. They beat Denver by 5, and they beat Houston by 7. I'd like to think that the Eagles aren't as bad as any of those teams, but I can't tell. I think the Eagles' defense is good. I can kind of tell what's going on. I think Darius Slay is going to blanket Juju Smith-Schuster all game. I think the Eagles' defense holds up. I'm more worried about the awful matchup that the Eagles' offensive line has with the Steelers' defensive line and T.J. Watt. That's really what I'm hoping. Carson Wentz comes out of this game unscathed and uninjured. But I like the Eagles +7. I do like Pittsburgh to win the game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I'm taking the Eagles with the points.
I don't need the points. You can keep them. The Philadelphia Football Eagles will win this game.
Oh, boy. Wait. So just last week, I'm trying to tell Justin that the Eagles can win this division at 7-8-1 or 6-9-1, and he goes, "Have you looked at the next 3 weeks that the Eagles got? They got Pittsburgh, and they got this, and they got that. And now all of a sudden, the Eagles win a football game against the San Francisco 49ers, and you think that the Eagles are going to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers? That's what you're telling me."
All right,
Complete 180.
So here's why. After the 49ers game, I learned a couple of things. I learned that Darius Slay is real. He didn't have a couple of good games on a new team. Darius Slay is, next to Stephon Gilmore, probably the second or third best corner in football. I don't know how anybody could defend that now, or defend against that, I should say. I watched. My only concern in this game, and I know that you've got such a concern with the offensive line, I'll get to in a second. My only concern with this game is Jalen Mills coming back to play corner. I know that Darius Slay will
you're in and out, Just. Your internet.
Hang on. Am I back?
I can hear you, but you ain't moving.
Am I moving now? I wasn't moving. Now
you're still going. Yeah.
All
okay.
right. So I know you're concerned with the offensive line, and I'll address that in a second. My real concern is Jalen Mills coming back to play corner. Not that he impressed me at safety by any means, but I'm concerned with the other side of the field. I agree that Schuster won't be a problem. but the rest of that receiving core with a guy like Ben Roethlisberger throwing the ball scares me. When it comes to the offensive line, we talked about this last week, and I watched a lot of analyst breakdown of Jordan Mailata. I'm not ready to say that he's the guy stepping in and taking over. But what I can say is what I saw against a pretty good defensive front in San Francisco. While Pittsburgh is definitely head and shoulders better, I don't have concern about that side of the line. If Jordan Mailata improves an iota, I think he holds his own and he'll be all right. I don't see the Pittsburgh offense being able to keep up with this offense if they do what is in front of them. If Miles Sanders gets used right, if there are flat screens out to Sanders, get him into the open field, if they get a little bit out of Zach Ertz, not a lot, just a little bit out of Zach Ertz again, I don't see these teams that closely matched. And I look at what Pittsburgh's done. You mentioned Denver. You mentioned the teams that they beat are garbage. They haven't faced a team that has any life in them at all and won until now. And the COVID stuff, the time off, all the things going against Pittsburgh, I think the Eagles have a small amount of momentum right now. And while I do still agree that 6-8-1 should not win a division, even though it might, I don't think there's any way if Philadelphia pulls off a win in Pittsburgh, and I'm going to say it now so you don't fall out your chair when we talk about it next week. If Philadelphia pulls out a win in Pittsburgh, with the momentum they carry, there's a chance they upset the Ravens. And if that happens, the ease of schedule that comes after this trip, the Eagles might win this division with 9 wins and a tie because the Dallas is not real. Nobody in the NFC can really compete with the NFCs can compete with this team. If they can build some momentum, they'll make some noise. They're still not going to compete for anything real. They won't win anything real. But I like a lot of what I saw last week. I like Jordan Mailata. I like seeing Hassan Ridgeway get involved in the pass rush, Josh Sweat get involved in the pass rush. I saw too many positives to not hope that they grow and continue.
Well, here's the thing. If Jordan Mailata today can hold up and help out with guys like Tuitt and Hayward and Watt on that line and the linebackers that they have, we're not going to be able to question this anymore. But for a guy going into his second game to have to block those guys, those nightmares of defensive linemen, he's going to need all the help that he can get. This is almost the game as bad as Jason Peters has been. I would rather have an old 39-year-old Jason Peters in than a guy that I think's up and coming based on experience alone, because these guys are game wreckers. You're going to need your defensive line to be a nightmare for Ben Roethlisberger. You're going to have to be able to get off the ball and beat the offensive line and stop James Conner in the run. You know what Darius Slay is going to do. We already know that. We've seen it for 4 weeks now. And you're going to have to get a game out of Carson Wentz that we just started to see last week, but he's going to need to be better this week because the Steelers don't have the types of injuries that the 49ers have. And Mike Tomlin, for whatever people want to say, has been a good coach every year that he's been in this league. He reminds me a little bit of Doc Rivers, to be honest with you. He won with a team kind of like handed to him in a bunch of stars and then couldn't really get back and do it multiple times, but he's had his team ready every week. He's a good coach in this league. He's been there for a decade. So it's going to be a coaching matchup. We're going to see what Carson Wentz does. We're going to get another look at these receivers that we have in. Alshon Jeffrey's still out. Deshaun Jackson's still out. Goddard's still out. We're shorthanded. We're going to have to run the football. But I still like Pittsburgh to beat us. But I haven't seen it from this year that anything that's overly impressed me with the teams that they've played. It's all been NFC East, like I said. And I like Pittsburgh to win. I just don't know in a low-scoring game, which I think it's going to be, if I like them to win by 7 points.
If I told you that the Eagles' pass rush got home 60% of the time, like I have a crystal ball, I can see it. The Eagles pass rush gets to Roethlisberger 60% of the time. Does that change your mind on the Eagles winning this game?
What makes you think that's going to happen?
Pittsburgh's offensive line is nothing to write home about. They have a good center. They have a good guard. There's no greatness on that line, and the problem that you run into is most of their guys that are even good are older, bro. Now, not to say that ours isn't. I mean, Lane's 30, and Jason Kelce, I think, is 33. But their good guys are in their mid-30s, and the level of substitution that we can run on this defensive line now that the health is back there, now that you've got Hargrave and Jackson and Cox and Barnett and Graham and Ridgeway and Sweat, they have so many guys they can send. You need that offensive line to stand up every single play. Now, that's not taken away from Pittsburgh's defensive line, but Pittsburgh doesn't have the depth we do. Now, you take all of our depth and add it together and multiply it by 5. You still don't get TJ Watt. But once you get Watt tired, you have a chance to let Carson stand in the pocket for a second. The Eagles' defensive line doesn't give you that opportunity because of the depth that they have.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to what we've been talking about for the last couple weeks, which is just the Eagles just have awful linebackers, and you can have a great game and your front four can do their job, but you have to be able to do the job on the second level as well. So you're going to make some plays and you're going to give up some big plays. We'll see how the linebacker play carries over from last week. I'm not going to go out there and say the Eagles don't have a chance to win this game, but the flip-flop I've seen from the first 3 weeks, tying the Bengals to then going into San Francisco and getting the game that you expect out of Carson Wentz, it's hard to see. I've watched all these other teams, and for some reason, the team I'm having the most difficult time feeling out is the team that I watch the most every single week.
It's true.
And that's the scary part of this. I know I can tell what the Bengals are. I see that they're a bad defense with a great quarterback that's keeping them in games, and they're going to be good for the next 10 years because they have an elite quarterback. I know what the Redskins are. I know what the Chiefs are. I know what the Colts are. I have no idea what the Eagles are. So we're going to get to see that. And it's annoying to watch too, because you watch guys like Deshaun and Alshon out and you're like craving to have them back, but it seems like when they're on the field, you're not getting anything from them. Rager's out now, Hightowers I think is going to play today, but like we need to get a veteran presence where I know like, okay, this guy's going to catch 6 balls for me this week, whether it's for 50 yards or whether it's for 80 yards, I'll get a couple first downs and maybe a goal line presence out of him. And I just don't know what the Eagles have.
Zach Ertz.
It's supposed to be.
You need Zach Ertz to have a game. And I don't care if it's the contract bullshit. I don't care if it's the fact that he thinks they like Goddard better than him. I don't give a shit what it is. I need Zach Ertz to be Zach Ertz again, just for a game. Let them gain some momentum. Like, let's be honest. You're looking at this as a football player. You know that they drafted Dallas Goedert to replace you. You know that. You knew that you were playing on a team that had a $35 million quarterback, that had an $18 million receiver in Alshon Jeffrey, that was going to pay $18 million a year to a corner, that needs to address the defensive line and Fletcher Cox's contract and Brandon Graham. You knew the day was going to come where you either needed to decide that I don't need to be the highest paid guy, but I want to win, or I want to go be the highest paid guy and go play for a team like Detroit, who has all the cap space in the world, but I'm never going to compete for something. And if Zach Ertz wants to do that, by all means, bro, go do it. But why the fuck wouldn't you try to win one more? Why wouldn't you try to seem relevant to go make even more money? You want to go beat out George Kittle's contract? Not this year, you're not. You haven't shown a thing to say that you deserve to get paid more than Jimmy Graham does. And Jimmy Graham ain't done nothing in 5 years. So it's just it's such a frustration that I have with Zach Ertz, because not only are you hurting your team, you're hurting yourself. And I don't know how you're that guy and look in the mirror and not say, shit, I gotta put on, even if it's just for me. Even if it's just so I can put something out there and go make my own elsewhere, I got to start playing. And when's it going to come, man? That is the problem. The reason why we don't see consistency is because you don't have it from the guys you always did. Jason Peters isn't the consistent guy he once was. Carson obviously had his struggles. But even for Carson's struggles, he don't even got the guy that he trusted for the last 3 years because of whatever the fuck's going on in his head or whatever injury he wants to try to say he's dealt with. It should be a man, grow the fuck up. Terrell Owens was 20 years ago, bro. You're not going to get away with that shit today. Just go out on the field and play the goddamn game. Like, I don't understand it, bro. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely missing Goddard because it's, Zach, we all know that, in my opinion, and a lot of people will tell you differently, but I can tell when I watch Zach Ertz run routes that he's lost a little step. That doesn't mean he still doesn't have the best hands on the team. That doesn't mean he's still not a top 5 tight end, in the league. But
Sure.
His precision on his routes and his speed is just not anywhere close to what Goddard's is. And Goddard can also go up and get a ball in a way that Zach Ertz can't right now. He's a better receiving tight end. He's a really good blocking tight end too, but Zach Ertz excels in that area as well. But if you want to get paid like a top 5 tight end, which I don't personally, and people hate when, Philadelphia guys say that, I think at the age that you're at, when I see what Goddard's doing, I'm not interested in him being a top 3 highest paid.
100% with you. 100%
Too many different areas to address on the team. I'd rather pay a lineman or an offensive lineman. So
right, and you pay Dallas Goedert in relation to what he is. Dallas Goedert will get overpaid for what he's done, but you're not talking about 16, 18, 22 million dollars a year. You're talking about 8, 10, 12 million dollars a year. And you're going to get, I'm sorry, I agree, bro. Somebody show me how much better Zach Ertz is on that field than Dallas Goedert is, because I don't see it. I see when Dallas Goedert plays, he is as effective in the run game, in the blocking game, but far more effective in the pass game. Far more effective. And it could be because Ertz is 30 and he lost a step, or he's not as fast, whatever the fuck you want to blame it on. It could be any of those reasons, but it matters that it is.
And the Eagles have a history of, if there's one position they have drafted well, it's been tight ends. So to think that we can't let Zach Ertz go and get a guy in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round that can be above average and do some of the things that we lose with the Zach Ertz, you're going to find that guy in the draft somewhere. So
sure.
Moving on, the Jimmy Butler. I didn't think he had a second performance like that in him. So if I had a cap, I'd tip it. You got, I think, 26 or 28 points from Duncan Robinson. Kendrick Nunn showed up, but the catalyst for the Miami Heat right now is Jimmy Butler. This is going a game longer now at this point than I thought it was going to. I hate to say this because I think LeBron wants to win just as much as anybody else. He had almost a 40-point triple-double the other night. He was the only one on the team really doing anything. I think Anthony Davis had 26 or 28 points, but he didn't look dominant, if that makes any sense. I don't know how you can have a 26-point game and not look dominant, but
he just 6'10" and can shoot from anywhere. That's how that happens. I mean, come on.
He wasn't fighting for rebounds the same way. He wasn't going for offensive rebounds. He wasn't blocking as many shots. You got almost nothing from Dwight Howard. KCP was your savior for some parts of the game, which that should never happen. And here we are going into a game 6. So I need people to make up their minds for me, because there's something that's been going on for the last couple weeks. All I've heard for the last couple weeks is that this title does not count because of the circumstances of the title, which, the coaches and everybody else has said this has actually been harder for them. So I need to know right now, does it count if Miami wins, or only? Of
course.
It counts if Miami wins, right?
Of course it does. It doesn't count because they got to do whatever the fuck they can to ruin the legacy of LeBron James. Just like if Markieff Morris does not throw that pass away and Danny Green nails the shot, Danny Green bailed out LeBron. And if LeBron James goes and takes that shot, LeBron's so selfish. I can't believe he didn't pass to an open teammate. There's nothing you can say to talk sense into these fucking people. And it's because with all of their being and their bodily might, I saw Meta World Peace, Ron Artest, whatever the fuck his new name is. I saw him say the other day, analysts and basketball guys saying that his era was soft because he didn't come up in the 80s and 90s like Michael did. And Meta World Peace is, for anybody who doesn't know, Ron Artest started in the very late back end of the 90s and kind of carried through the 2010s up until, I don't remember when he retired. It was a handful of years ago. I'm fucking tired of that argument, bro. I'm tired of hearing that the only reason why LeBron James is so dominant is because the physicality is different. They don't play the same way. Isaiah Thomas used to get his eyebrows split open every other game. Listen, bro, you can't give me that argument because in today's league, LeBron James is so dominant because of his physicality. The reason why he's so good is because he's so fucking strong. It's not because he's Klay Thompson standing on a fucking wing or Steph Curry shooting from half court because as soon as someone gets in his face, he can't drain his shot. This is such a fucking joke. Jimmy Butler, listen, I don't disagree with you. You said catalyst, and I like that word. Jimmy Butler's the catalyst. Yes. Did Jimmy Butler win that fucking game? Or was it Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn and the fact that his whole goddamn team showed up to win?
6 guys in double figures.
His whole team showed up to win. And what did LeBron get on the other side? A lazy 28 from Davis. Sure, give it to you. Again, when you're talking about a top 5 player, it's easy to fall into 26 or 28 points. Then what? You got Markieff Morris throwing the game away at the end. You got KCP not being able to score like he did because, I'm sorry, you get one game and now KCP is all of a sudden one of the top 5 wings? Of course he's not. That's not who that guy is. Danny Green couldn't sink a shot. Rondo didn't look good. Dwight gave you nothing. One team showed up and one team didn't. And now I got to listen to these idiots. Oh, well, Jimmy Butler's doing it. How come Jimmy Butler can win this way? Jimmy Butler's not doing it. Jimmy Butler didn't have a 40-point triple-double back-to-back games. He did it one time, got some momentum, and now his team showed up to play. That's it. Stop it with the bullshit of LeBron is damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. If he misses that shot to tie, he's selfish. If he passes that ball, he's weak. Pick a goddamn lane and stay in it.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of tail away from giving LeBron his due because we knew, and it's become automatic. We knew going into this last game and with the chance to close the game out that LeBron was going to do what LeBron did, and that's saying a lot for a guy that got I think like 40, 13, and 8 or 9 or something like that. I'm gonna pivot a little bit, and Jimmy Butler, the Sixers had Jimmy Butler. I saw this in a handful of games, from Jimmy Butler. I've never seen, in the time that I've been watching the NBA, a guy that, in my opinion, doesn't quite have the skill level of the superstar players in the NBA play multiple games like he has the skill level of the top guys in the NBA. And, not only did he have, I think it was 35 or 38 points and a triple-double, I think he had 5 steals, a couple blocks. And, in the fourth quarter, yes, Duncan Robinson was hitting some shots. You got a lot out of Kendrick Nunn, which you've needed the whole series because Dragic went out. So he's been the guy that you've swapped and performed admirably, especially for a guy that's a rookie. I mean, their young guys are playing like they're vets. And you're getting to see the difference between the guys that the Lakers have as far as their ability to play basketball, not their IQ or anything like that, but the bench guys for Miami and the other guys that you would call them, their ability to score and play defense and what you get with the Lakers. Now, I'm not going to overreact and sit here and say that I think this game's going to go 7 because to think that the Heat can do that, the Heat played their absolute and I don't believe they could do it again. Their absolute best game as a team that they could possibly play. And the Lakers still had a chance at the end to win the game. Danny Green missed his Steve Kerr, Paxson, Ron Artest, Derek Fisher moment, Robert Horry moment. He missed it. Markieff Morris missed his Robert Horry moment. The ball bounced right back to him off the rim, and Danny Green was behind him. I think KCP or Caruso was to his left. LeBron was wide open in the corner, and then AD, I think, was the only guy that had someone on him, and he threw it out of bounds trying to get the ball to AD. It was a complete choke job. But that's not, to say that if he gets the ball to the right person that they would have made the shot because the way the game went, right, it didn't seem like anybody but LeBron could make that shot. Right. So that's why LeBron's getting a lot of heat because he went up against 3 guys. I could tell as soon as he went up that the shot was going to be blocked. He had to pass it. There was no way that shot was even going to get past the defenders. Danny Green has been making threes in this league for a decade. So if you think passing to Danny Green at the top of the key was a bad move, you don't know basketball, because that's literally what Danny Green has been doing since he came into the league. Whether he's had a bad game or not, he's hit those shots. He hit him with the Spurs for the better part of 6 or 7 years. So it's the right move. Hats off to the Miami Heat. I'm excited to watch this game. I'm excited that they've made it a series. I'm happy that Bam has been able to play in this series, so there's not another layer of excuses. I want the Lakers to beat Miami at their best. And personally, I think that I have not seen the best game that the Lakers can play yet. And that's LeBron's job, to get his guys up. Now, LeBron can't play for these other guys, but he has to get them in the mindset to hit some shots and go ahead and win this game. And tip my cap to a guy that the Sixers lost in Jimmy Butler. And I want to get rid of this rhetoric too, that we gave Toby the max instead of Jimmy Butler. We didn't give Toby the max instead of Jimmy Butler. We wanted to pay one of two guys. Jimmy Butler decided that he didn't want to play for the Sixers because Brett Brown was the coach and he didn't like Ben Simmons. So it's not the Sixers management let Jimmy Butler go. We got to throw that out the window.
Wait a second. You contradicted yourself in your same sentence. They did, because I know Ben was a problem for Jimmy, but they decided that another season of Brett Brown was more important than keeping Jimmy Butler. And that was a management ownership decision that was fucking wrong.
But the point is, it's not that they didn't want to pay Jimmy Butler a max contract. It's that they decided they weren't going to let Jimmy Butler dictate what they did in their front office. And Miami's an organization that's had the same coach in the same front office for years. Pat Riley's there, or Spoelstra's there. They're a team that has a championship mentality, and Jimmy Butler decides that he wants to go to Miami. So
because he wanted to play for guys that wanted to win, and this was the problem. And this is why it's a top down, bro. You know this from the car industry that we spent some time in. When there's a bad attitude, it usually starts at the head. And Josh Harris is probably the worst owner in all. I mean, John Middleton had a really bad press conference last week, but Josh Harris is probably the worst owner in all major sports. And I don't like to shit on Elton Brand because I don't think he's had enough time or the tools because of how bad his owner is. But this was Elton Brand and Joshua Harris making the decision that they valued Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid's ego more than they valued winning basketball. And that's why Brett Brown got to stay another season, because Brett Brown made Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid comfortable. He was beyond a player's coach, beyond a coddling coach. They ran this team. And this is what we're going to see now. If these guys have the ability to overcome their own ego and check themselves and understand that they are great, but they're not all-time greats yet. Doc Rivers is going to be that guy that gets it out of him. Doc's a guy whose players love him, but at the same time, Doc does not put up with any of your bullshit. He doesn't give a shit how many Kardashians you date. He doesn't give a shit about what you want to say on social media. He doesn't care about any of it. He cares about winning games. Score the ball, win the game. That's it. And now we're going to see how much these two guys can play together. What we will see, too, is can they win together? We still don't know that. I think we both can agree when Ben's been out and Joe's been in, they've been better than them together. And when Joe's been out and Ben's been in, they've been better. They have not played their best basketball as a team together. And that's a problem. Now, you and I both agree Brett Brown was probably the worst coach in basketball. That was a big problem. You don't have that excuse to lay on anymore. You have one of the greatest coaches of all time now. You have one of the winningest coaches of all time that knows how to get guys to show up and perform, will bring you players to complete your team. There's going to be guys that want to play for Doc in a city like Philadelphia, and the excuses are gone. And this is what we'll see. And Jimmy Butler making that decision, I was one of the very few that was never for a second upset with what Jimmy Butler decided to do. Because all I had to do was put myself in the same shoes. Jimmy Butler was homeless at 15 years old living on a park bench, and now he's an NBA superstar. We agree his ability is not superstar level, but that's what he is in this league. It's what he created to be himself. If I'm looking at Brett Brown and Joshua Harris and this fucking mess, and then I'm looking at Pat Riley and Spo and what they've accomplished and the history of that team, there's not even a choice to make there, bro.
Yeah,
you would have to pay me 2 max contracts to stay in a city like this in that situation. And then twofold, the other problem is I don't give a shit that Jimmy left. Why did you pay Tobias Harris a max contract in the first place, regardless of losing Jimmy? Toby was not a max player at the time you paid him. Just like Al Horford's not worth $100 million, but you paid him to keep him away from Boston, so your fragile, egoed big man didn't run into Boston in the playoffs and crumble to pieces. This is the systemic, terrible decisions going all the way back to Larry Brown, not drafting Paul Pierce because he made a promise to a little white kid. This is the problem with this city, bro. This is the problem with this team, and it's been the same. Hopefully Doc fixes it. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I hope so.
Yeah, now the other matchup that I'm interested in seeing tonight is Anthony Davis re-aggravated a heel injury last game, and you could tell he wasn't moving the way Anthony Davis normally moves. The other issue with that is he's been the main matchup for Jimmy Butler. He took on the assignment of guarding him, and he did a really good job in Game 4, and then Jimmy Butler just kind of did his thing in Game 5. So this is going to be interesting because if Anthony Davis isn't moving the way Anthony Davis can move, you're not guarding Jimmy Butler. He did a great job the other game, but if you're hurt and you're on your heels, you're not going to do a good job. And what I was waiting for actually last game was for someone on the Lakers to realize that they need to take Anthony Davis off of Jimmy because he just wasn't moving well. I'm curious to see if at some point in the second half of this game, if LeBron decides the same way he did in the Nuggets series, the same way he did in the Portland series, the same way he did in the Houston series, if he decides that he wants to take that matchup at some point in the game, if Jimmy is doing what he did to the Lakers in Game 6, somebody at some point who's almost the same size as him and has the same kind of lateral movement is going to have to guard Jimmy Butler, and they didn't seem to have an answer for him. Do you think at this point in his career with the offensive output that LeBron is giving you, and how he's just kind of, coaching the entire team on and off the floor, that he's going to take that matchup at some point in the second half if Jimmy's doing the same types of things he was doing in Game 5?
No choice. There's no choice, and not in the second half. He needs to start the game on Jimmy. I mean, I don't disagree with you a little bit. Anthony Davis is definitely not what he was in Game 1, 2, and 3. That can't be a second half adjustment. That has to be a Game 6 adjustment. That can't be a let's hope that everything works out and it goes okay. That has to be a from tip to buzzer. You gotta. Who else are you gonna have? And then you look at who has been the main assignment for LeBron throughout the series, and who do you have to then replace? I mean, you've got guys like Kuzma, who's not a great defender, but he's got size. You've got guys like Markieff Morris, again, not a great defender, but he's got size. You got to take the lateral movement away from Anthony Davis so that re-aggravating an injury does not become a new injury. And you got to post him up in the hole, guard the center, you're big enough, and let LeBron get out on the outside and guard that wing from Jimmy. You have to do it to start the game, not to adjust in the second half. That's got to be how it goes from Jump Street.
Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting matchup, and hopefully, I mean, I love to see Danny Green kind of come out of this on top. Give you a couple big buckets this game, play some good defense, hit a couple threes. I'd love to see Rajon Rondo have a good game, get 8 assists and 12 points or something like that. And I'd really like to see Dwight Howard step up and give you more than 5 minutes of just moving around in the lane, because for whatever reason, the last couple games when Miami's gone small, just Dwight hasn't even been able to stay on the floor and have the impact that he usually has. Bam Adebayo, I think, had 15 points or so last game, and they still ended up winning. You can't – if you're the Lakers, if Bam isn't giving you 20 to 25 points, Miami should not be winning the game. And that's just how I see it.
Get Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn to go off again? Probably not.
Probably really what they can. And if the problem is, if Duncan doesn't go off, you still have Tyler Hero who can do the same thing that Duncan Robinson is doing. So you have multiple guys that can do that. The defense has to be suffocating. They haven't put their defense first. They've been trying. LeBron shot, I think, 6 or 7 threes last game, and he made 4 or 5 of them. But that's not LeBron's game, and he's doing that to try to keep them in the game. It was remarkable to me watching that last game with nobody on the Lakers stepping up, just random times. Literally, the only thing that was keeping them in the game was LeBron James and literally KCP. And if KCP's keeping you in ball games, you're in trouble. So the whole team has to step up. I'm excited. We have a great day of sports, man. We got all of NFL football. We got the Eagles and the Steelers, and we got the Lakers and the Heat tonight. So I'm excited for these matchups. Anything you want to add, Justin, before we get out of here?
No, I mean, just to end, bro, I know that I'm crazy. I want to say that out loud. I know I'm nuts for picking the Eagles to win outright. I just saw a ton of little things that I liked, and my guess here is because I think they grow off of them. And not because Doug Peterson's going to do it. Nobody mistake this. Doug is a horrendous coach. But I like Jim Schwartz a little bit better. I think the defense steps up. I think the depth that they've got is going to cause problems for Ben. I still can't believe you picked the Titans. That's going to bother me all day. I mean, all day. That's going to bother me.
Bother until they win.
As for the NBA, bro, I'm with you. I don't see this going 7 games. I see LeBron coming into this game going, enough is enough. Jimmy is mine. Everybody else, figure out your game. It's me versus Jimmy. I'm going to get my 40. I'm going to get my 12. I'm going to get my 9 and hold Jimmy down. And it's up to the rest of you to just look okay. And I think that's how that game plays out tonight. I'm going to stay away from whatever the spread is. I don't care if it's 3, 5, 7, or 10. This is a game you don't want to bet. It's a trap for whatever the line gets set up. But I think some of the picks we went over with football, there's a lot of lines, bro. I mean, other than the Chiefs giving 11, some of these big lines are just so appetizing. I mean, again, the Dolphins, 8.5. It's just so many good games. We got Weekend of Sports, bro. We're going to be back at it again on Wednesday. Pay attention to the Facebook page. We're going to start getting a little bit more active and posting some stuff. And yeah, it's a great conversation as always, bro. Even though you're wrong on a couple points, it's all right.
Even my bad points are great. So I'm curious to see.
Great take.
I'm curious to see Jordan Mailata, how he plays against the Steelers line. It's going to give a lot for the Eagles' future and what they need to do. It's going to be good to see him get some reps. Anthony Davis has to dominate the way he did in games 1 and 2 for the Lakers to close out this series tonight. I know what I'm getting from LeBron James. Not sure what I'm getting from the role players, but I do have proof that if Anthony Davis and LeBron James dominate the game, it doesn't matter much what my other guys do. So I need to see that from both of them. And we'll be back on Wednesday. And we'll go over everything, go over our picks, tally everything up. Justin, you have a good rest of your day. Follow us on Big Facts, Facebook/Big Facts, YouTube/Big Facts. We stream live on Sundays and Wednesdays and sometimes in between. And we got a good day of sports coming up. So enjoy it, and we'll be back on Wednesday.
All right, brother.
Take it easy.